Hello everyone. I just wanted to talk to everyone a little bit about thumbnails and how it is that we can put these together fairly quickly for our first project and work with all the different options that a lot of you had asked about. So with the thumbnails, remember this is proof of your participation in the divergent stage of the creative process, right? So that you are thinking in lots of different directions, right? You're not trying to come up with one good idea, you're trying to come up with lots of ideas. So this is our quantity stage, and that will lead to quality, right? You might need to do more pages, that's fine. I do want you to be looking at how you can stay within our parameters, our limitations of 4 lines, increasing slowly in activity, not intersecting themselves or each other, and they're also leaving and entering on opposite sides of the format, right? You can always turn them on the side. It starts to help you think in a little bit different directions. I really liked how my thinking changed when I moved to horizontal. What I want you to do after you get to about a 2/3 is reflect back on your habits. What have you created so far? Were you too obvious? Did you do the same thing over and over again, right? I'm already seeing some habits. I already know, I kind of don't know if I like that shape right there. So anyway, but I know what I do like. I'm starting to identify my visual intuition. I know what a strong line is now, and I know what a weak line is, right? You will develop that as you go. And then I want you to take all of your strong lines and move them forward until you get to your final ideas, okay? What is a perfect line? And what is a set of 4 that's perfect? You need to figure that out, and if you don't figure that out by the end of one page, keep going, yes? So I have created a 1.5-inch square on this grid paper, and that took me about 6 squares that I have here. You might be working on a grid rather than a graph paper. So making sure that you know what those measurements are. This one is a 1-inch grid, you guys, so it's kind of small. See how tight my lines end up being? But it's up to you if you want to work this small. And on this paper, you can always count it out, go a little bit bigger, give yourself just a bit more room. And then you've caught up to me at 1.5 inches. If we go all the way to 2 squares, then we're at 2 inches, and that's our maximum size that I've placed on our announcement. So you can work in any of these 3 sizes, folks, okay? We've got 1 inch, 1.5 inches, and 2 inches. Okay, those are the size of our thumbnails. I'm not going to be measuring them, but this is just the range. It shouldn't get too much bigger than that. You can also, if you do not have gridded paper or graph paper, just use a sketchbook, yeah? Throw your ruler on there and create your own grid, yeah? I just threw this on and created my own grid of thumbnails, and you can do this for the whole semester if you like, okay? You don't have to buy gridded paper if it's not your jam. So thumbnails, get those done. Once your thumbnail is done, you want to enlarge it to a piece of sketchbook or graph paper. So you can see this is super thin sketchbooky paper. I enlarged them, I kept them in order for this first phase. And I've also placed them onto my Bristol paper, yeah? So this surface that we're working on is a sheet of my Bristol. I have pre-taped and pre-measured to 11 inches, yeah? So our parameters were to create an 11-inch square. So I measured that out and I placed my tape exactly at 11 inches on both sides, right? You want to make sure you're checking all of your edges for accuracy. I'm at 11, perfect. So my line is right, then I established all the rest of my borders. And then the next thing I did was centered my image. I created my little flaps out of some tape. The other thing that I showed you guys in our Zoom, and if you missed that, you want to make sure that you're doing this either in daylight or against a computer monitor with maybe like a white document open. And that way you can create your own light table and create your own transfer paper, right? So on the back side of your paper, you create a nice amount of graphite. Any kind of graphite pencil will work. The softer the better. This is just a regular HB pencil. And once you place it down, these hinges make it so that you aren't shifting it around. Having a hinge is helpful to make sure that you have accurately traced. And I also shared with you the potential for purchasing artist graphite transfer paper, which is right here. This is a bit costly. You might not need that much of it, but I like to work in large sheets when I do use it. So I'm going to give you an example of what this looks like with some transfer paper and what it looks like without. I like doing my tracing with a large micron. So I have a micron 01, sorry, this is what I have here. That's this line. This is definitely your test space, folks, right? I want you to be experimenting with your micron pens, knowing how much weight is needed in order to get a good line quality. And the reason we want to use a different color as we're tracing is so that you know where you've been. Because if I just come back over this in pencil, I won't see where I've been. And then I might end up retracing and wasting a little bit of time. Now, when you go over this multiple times, you really get to commit to the shape of these lines, right? Or to the curvature. So that really reinforces the intentionality of these lines. So now I'm going above and I'm transitioning off of the paper and on to using the graphite transfer method. Let's come over here. So once I have traced the lines, a ballpoint pen also works really well because it creates a groove. You don't want to do too heavy-handed. You do not want to leave marks in the paper. You don't want to create an engraved surface, yeah? Okay. So let's check our work. Nice. So, the graphite transfer paper is a little messy, but it erases pretty nicely. And you can see that it creates a really soft, subtle line. I untaped this, and so this is a bit of a jitter that's happening here. But this is the amount of line quality that you want. It doesn't need to be much. It can be very subtle. It can be very subtle, just enough for you to have to follow along with your micron pen, yeah? The last thing that I want to go over with you is how it is to kind of take your time with your line quality. I've had some people use various microns. So again, this is my 01 that I have here. This is a 005, which means it's a much thinner line. All right, you can see that the line quality there is just a whole lot thinner because I'm just creating a pattern here. So yeah, you can see that as you get thinner, that thin line is much more responsive to every subtle movement that your hand makes. So there's my 01, there's my 05. Another tool some students like to work with is a brush pen. I do want you to be sure that your brush pen is working well and can have a taper to a thin point. Yeah, this one is pretty thick. I'm just gonna put B for brush, right? A brush pen, you'd think it would be an easier method, but actually it's really hard to get a consistent line with these brush pens. You have to have a really nice fine tip. I have another one that I prefer. I can show that to you here. So the last thing I want to show you after I share this awesome brush pen trick with you is the it is the how to trim down your paper safely. Okay. Oh, it's not happening here. I don't know what happened to it. Bummer. I have a different brush pen that I'll dig out for you guys. So, trimming your paper down once you're finished. Keep your tape on. If you didn't trim first, Trimming at the end is always fine because, like I said, keeping a workspace is great. You always want to cut on the non-image side, right? You don't want to put your ruler, let's say my work was this way, and I was like, oh, I'm just going to put my ruler here and cut it like this. Not a good idea, because then if you make a mistake, you go into your artwork and into your border. Always use your ruler as a safety guide and protect your artwork with it, okay? So I'm going to put, this is why I like these gridded pads too, or gridded work surfaces, because you can align with the existing grid system that's there to make sure that your ruler is straight. Okay, I have a fairly sharp blade. This is looking a little dingy, but I think with just a little bit of pressure, it'll come off nicely. You want to always maintain contact with your metal edge. You want to maintain about a 45-degree angle with the surface of your paper, okay? And you want to pull towards yourself, making sure that your hands are not in the way, that they're up on the bridge of the ruler, applying directly downward pressure, okay? So you want to slowly put pressure down, drag towards yourself, maintaining pressure. And before you move the ruler, take a second swipe. Then check. Don't move the ruler yet. Oop, I have a little bit of pull up there. I'm gonna come back. There we go. Great, so I maintain direct pressure that entire time, and now I will release it, okay? So now my image is trimmed 11 by 11. Hopefully you have your lines nicely inked and all of your graphite is erased, and then you can take off your border and you'll have a nice, clean, ready image. All right, I hope this was helpful. See you guys in class.